today. My name is Anita, and my boyfriend has been in MSOP for almost 20 years, along with a close friend of mine, for almost the same amount of time. Today, we are here to commemorate the 30 years of the MSOP Sex Offender Program, MSOP, and to mourn the loss of over 100 of individuals who have died while being confined. We also acknowledge the hundreds of thousands of instances of sexual violence that were not prevented by this program. NSOP is the most expensive and least effective method in the fight against sexual violence. Like those inside, we are wearing black today to solidarity with those at the Moose Lake and the St. Peter sites. Minnesota holds the highest rate per capita of civil commitment in the nation and one of the lowest discharge rates. Efforts to reform this broken system have failed, leading to growing calls to sunset NSOP and reinvest in subsidized budget to more effective preventions and support individuals. Okay, I would like to introduce Mary, who will be speaking about the incredible work for her son Daniel as we were doing from inside NSOP. Mary will speak now.
Ooh, do we want to see if the mic?
Yes.
Could y'all hear that? Okay.
Wait, can you hear now?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Mary. My son Daniel Aaron Wilson has done so much work with preventing sexual violence and exposing MSOP that he recently received this National Braveheart Award from NARSAW, which stands for National Association for Rational Sex Offense Laws. Dan is definitely brave. This is the Braveheart Award. He did all this while inside the Shadow Prison in Moose Lake. I don't think this happens very often, and I think he'd probably be upset with me if he knew I brought this today, but that's just the way that is. Stopping sexual violence today is why we are here. For 30 years, Minnesota has been warehousing offenders beyond their prison terms instead of promoting programs that help stop sexual violence. These primary prevention programs have ran out of money in Minnesota. We would like to promote these programs in schools, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities instead of violating the rights of offenders in shadow prisons, which does almost nothing to prevent sexual assaults, according to the Mitchell Hamlin Law School report that was recently released in April. We would like you to take these funds instead and use to warehouse these men and use the money to fund primary prevention programs that actually do work. Right now, my son is being punished inside MSOP for the very thing that we are doing here today, for speaking out about this unconstitutional program in Minnesota that has been scrutinized in the courts and labeled as the most draconian system in the entire nation. Just think about this system spends almost $300,000 per day to warehouse these people, when that money could be spent on primary prevention programs that are proven to work. Just think about what $300,000 a day could do to prevent sexual assaults in this state. According to the Mitchell Hamlin Law School, MSOP has no discernible impact on reducing rates of sexual violence, and this money could be better spent in Minnesota, and so many families and communities would benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, Mary.
Now I'm introducing Larry.
Hello, I'd like to speak to the governor, Keith Ellis, and the judicial system. You make these decisions to enslave our people. First it started with blacks, then you went into the market for enslaving all races. Double jeopardy will not be tolerated. The people would not stand being enslaved. Minnesota was ranked number 4 in the best state to live in. How could that be if we are enslaving our people of all races? I said make decisions to free them, make arrangements, housing, medical care, jobs. They are ready to live their life. Let them be free. Free your slaves.
Thank you, Mary. Now I'm introducing
about Conrads, amigos, and justice impacted individuals. That's why we don't use the word offender anymore. We use justice impacted because we know that in identity there's power. Members of the community, I want you first you to remember this: first them, then us, and then perhaps you. Today we gather to shed light on an issue that affects justice impacted individuals and society as a whole. The Minnesota Sex Offender Program, MSOP, is what we want to talk about. Jive, justice impacted individuals voting effectively, stands united in the belief that justice should be rooted in the facts rather than the prejudices that often cloud the judgment of the criminal injustice system. If your purpose is to give a person a life sentence, to just come out and say it, because this is what the program is doing. It's basically giving individuals a life sentence in de facto. What are they doing to individuals they don't want to have anything to do with? They're putting them behind walls and putting them as far away from society as possible and acting like they don't exist. I just say come out and tell the truth. If that's what you intend on doing, then let us know that's what you intend on doing. The state of Minnesota would rather spend millions a person rather than offer successful treatment. The only difference between those who wear the scarlet letter on the streets and those who are confined in the MSOP program is that in that program they can see the bars. It is crucial to recognize that most justice impacted individuals desire nothing more than a fair assessment based on the truth of their case. Yet we find ourselves in a system that tends to mold the facts to fit the perceived notion of criminality. This is the stark difference between prosecution and persecution. That's what I want to talk to you today about. There's a difference between prosecution and persecution. What they're doing with those gentlemen up there is persecuting them. That was not a prosecute. That's not how the criminal justice system is supposed to work. It's a thing that they call right to be forgiven. There's nowhere in this society that exists. And there's proven restorative justice programs that show that what they're doing up there does not work, but there's community-based and reuniting those individuals with their community works a lot better than housing them in these boxes and keeping them away from their family and ostracizing them and making them go through treatment that they know that don't work, using evidence-based studies that they've given scholarships and grants to individuals to show them the facts that substantiates their insanity. That's what's going on up there, right? While we acknowledge that some individuals have made egregious mistakes, it is essential to understand that there are restorative justice programs that focus on healing and community transfer approach that recognize the humanity in every individual and seeks to forgo the paths toward redemption or reintegration. That's basically all I want to say about the program, is that if you look at the ISR program that came off of that and how they utilized it, all I want you guys to realize that they started with the ISR program specifically because they had these as sex offenders that they wanted to control. Eventually, it came down to people on regular parole. Eventually, anybody and everybody was put on ISR. That's exactly what's going to happen to that program. As far as you see, they're only keeping that program in the vestiges of Moose Lake to eventually bring it and have it be utilized against everybody. So today, them, tomorrow, us, the next day, you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Now I'm introducing Brad from IWOC.
My name is Dr. Magus Brad Ryerson. I work for the Incarcerated Workers Organizing Committee. We stand in solidarity today with the End MSOP program. My personal story is I have a friend, Randy, in Moose Lake right now. He was wrongfully convicted. He served his 10 years. The day before he was supposed to be released, they handed him the civil commitment papers, and he's been in prison, in the shadow prison now, for over a year. He's done everything that they've asked. He's completed their assessments, and yet they still don't let him free. Now, I miss my friend. I want him out. He is a good employer. He was a good family man. He was contributed to the community. He helped the lives of hundreds of people, and he shouldn't be in MSOP. And so I want to let people know that we should send him home. He doesn't deserve to be there. He doesn't belong there. I understand that sexual violence is happening, but then let's go after treating the victims so that they can restore their lives. Let's go after the offenders and help them restore their lives. Because if we don't restore lives, if we don't rehabilitate people, this is going to continue, and we don't need to spend millions of dollars doing this. We need to end this program, reinvest that money into something else. Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you, Brad. Now we're going to read a quote from Emily Horowitz, a PD, sociologist, criminal justice person.
Hi. This following statement I'm reading for Emily Horowitz, PhD, professor and chair, Department of Sociology and Criminal Justice. She's co-director, Justice Initiative, St. Francis College, out of Brooklyn, New York. As someone who has spent decades researching the harms, failure, and ineffectiveness and cruelty of United States sex offense laws, civil commitment is among the most draconian and horrifying of these policies. Those banished to these shadow prisons are locked up, denied the rights of all others behind bars because their sentences are absurdly considered civil, not criminal. They are banished not for past acts, but imagined potential future acts, which is literally the stuff of nightmares. Those who enter rarely leave, and those cruel and unusual punishments not only destroy the lives and families of those stuck inside, but waste millions of dollars. Moose Lake and the other facilities like it should be immediately and permanently closed. Emily Horowitz, sociologist and author.
Thank you. If anyone else would like to say a few words, please step forward. If not, we will move on to Christian. I'll move on to Tiffany. Thank you. My name is Tiffany Minkle. I have a brother that's been at MSOP for the last 19 years. I also am a survivor of sexual violence. You might have seen the teal ribbons that we're all wearing. That is the color for sexual violence prevention. I'm going to be reading a speech regarding the memorial banner that we'll be having come out next with the names of everyone who has passed away. Everyone in the shadow prison must protect their cultural identity. Cultural identity is in the stories you tell and where you come from. It is in the lessons you learn from your upbringing. It is embedded in the language you speak, the things you make, and the rituals and spiritual paths you observe. There are 106 panels on the memorial banner, each one representing a fallen comrade from the shadow prison. To honor their cultural identity, we try to properly represent each person's spiritual past. For the Native American, an eagle feather. For the Christian, a cross. For the wicked, a pentagram. For the Muslim and Moor, a crescent moon and star. For the Odinist, a hammer. For the Jew, a Star of David. And for Jehovah's Witness, a JW. If we were unaware of the person's path, we use an image of a sun shining through the clouds to represent the hope of a life outside of the shadow prison. At one end of the banner, you'll notice 4 panels that say, quote, unknown comrade. These represent the fallen comrades for whom we could not identify. As of March 2023, shadow prison officers refuse to disclose detainee deaths to the public or to the others still detained. From what we can tell, they do not even inform family members. Currently, we know of 102 deaths, but we estimate the total to be closer to 106. Although these detainees walked their own unique path, they all had one thing in common. They were all human beings, and as human beings, they all had the natural human desire to be free. It is sobering to think that the shadow prison did not afford them freedom before death. I am now going to read the names of those who have died in the shadow prison in order to honor them. When finished reading them, we encourage you to share your thoughts about the men who are still confined. Thank you, Tiffany. The same time is going on in right now in St. Peter's and CGS on reading the names. Let us gather now to light a candle, and we will be reading the list of the names and open for questions. Thank you.
Do you mind helping?
Yes.
John, do you mind helping with that?